Now, the arrest has also sent shockwaves through the financial markets around the world. Here's a live look at the big board at the New York Stock Exchange. Now, the Dow Jones Index of 30 of the most influential names in corporate America has tanked again. It's down more than 320 points, though earlier it had lost almost 800 points. So even before Wall Street and Bay Street opened for business, the selling was already on. And it all started the minute the news broke yesterday evening. Jeannie Lee is here with all the market reactions. So how can one person's arrest trigger all this? And it is interesting that the losses aren't quite as bad as they were earlier.
Well, markets can be triggered by a lot less. We've seen that, right? And the fact is, all of this is happening at a very tenuous time for U.S.-China relations, when you have the two biggest economies in the world trying to hammer out a trade deal. If this arrest, for example, and any accusations of spying should jeopardize the talks, then what you have would be possibly triggering more tariffs and counter tariffs, and, you know, growth in China and the U.S. could be dented, and then that would ripple out to just about every country that deals with the U.S. or China, or both, and that's just about every country. So this is what we saw overnight. The minute the selling began, we saw losses around the world. The Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index dropped 2.5%. That is significant on any given day. The London's FTSE 100 down 3.15%, a big drop for the FTSE right there. And Frankfurt's DAX index dropped even more by 3.5%. And we could tell all of this was coming, as you say, at supper time yesterday when the news broke. I think it was by the Globe and Mail. And right away, if you look at the Dow Futures graph, you can tell it's an early predictor of how the markets will be doing if nothing else changes overnight. And that area that we circled there, or squared there, that shows when the news hit the wires, and down came the futures index. So Asian markets, then European markets, and now North American markets are acting accordingly.
So, and Canada isn't immune to this, of course.
No. Cannot escape that huge wave of uncertainty suddenly gripping everyone, because no country is immune, again, to the U.S. or China and whatever their economies are doing. So let's take a look at our main index, the TSX Composite Index, down 285 points, though earlier it was off by 408 at the depths of the selling. So you're right that as the afternoon goes on, we're seeing a little bit of recovery, but then you have the Canadian dollar, and a few other things are at play with the dollar. The dollar at 74.65 cents US, it was down to about 74.5 earlier, which would be a one-year low for the dollar, 18-month low actually for the dollar. Some of that because of oil. Oil is taking a big tumble today, and that's because OPEC ministers came to Vienna, they talked, and they could not agree to announce any kind of output cuts. So that's also having an effect on all of this.
And so let's check out some of the other live numbers.
Live numbers, let's start with the S&P 500, the broad measure of the U.S. market, hit a record, what was it? A correction territory, yes. So it was down at one point by 11% from its most recent peak. It too has recovered some of the losses, which now stand at about 1.5%, 36 points. The NASDAQ market was down by 174 earlier, so there's a bit of bounce back for the NASDAQ. West Texas oil, that's what we're talking about there, 51.52 a barrel. That's a year low. And you have in Canada, energy shares like Suncor, Enbridge, Canadian Natural Resources down 4%, 5%, 6% respectively.
Wow. All right, Jeannie, thank you.
You're welcome.